Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Convention with another installment of Mutant Monday. In the last 2 weeks, we've covered the as I called it, the prologue to the Messiah Trilogy. Now we're moving on to the actual Messiah Trilogy itself, starting with the first chapter, Messiah Complex. So Messiah Complex was a 13-part crossover between the primary the X-Men team books of the time. Started off with a one-shot entitled X-Men Messiah Complex, and then filtered into Uncanny X-Men, X-Factor, and New X-Men. So, where we left off, mutants were basically an endangered species at this point. The X-Men had been betrayed by Mystique, Shock, Amazement, as well as Lady Mastermind, and Gambit, and Sunfire. And it turns out that the Acolytes were now working alongside the Marauders, as were Mystique, Gambit, and Sunfire. And something was coming, though no one quite knew what. So we begin with Messiah Complex, Chapter 1. Starts off, the X-Men are crossing into Alaska at top speed. A team consisting of Cyclops, Emma Frost, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and Angel. Emma is concerned that she's not picking up anything from the location they're heading to. Wolverine and Angel are both apprehensive about the fact that, Emma Frost, a very powerful telepath, isn't detecting any thoughts from a town full of people. And Angel actually thinks it's a trap. When they arrive, it turns out the town is burning. And, of course, they're also afraid that maybe something has happened involving a mutant. So Wolverine and Nightcrawler teleport out. Angel also drops out to do aerial reconnaissance. Then flashes back to a few hours earlier, and Xavier, who, after the events of the story Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire, has Fallen Rise of the Shi'ar Empire, come to think of it, has regained his psychic powers, is in Cerebro, and he's kind of bummed just because, there's so few mutants left, only a few hundred. And then something happens that there's a mutant signature that manifests in Alaska, and it's powerful enough to short out Cerebro, and also affect Emma, shatter glass in one of the training rooms, and potentially do some damage in the garage where Cyclops is working on his car. Back in the present, in Cooperstown, Alaska, Nightcrawler is teleporting through, gathering survivors. And Cyclops and Emma are hypothesizing, and Cyclops' theory is not a good one. What if this is a munt's powers first manifested? What if their power was blowing up the town? Explaining he nearly killed people when his powers appeared, and he's far from the first to have that problem. Wolverine then explains that whatever whatever's happened, it wasn't an accident, especially as they find the dead body of Blockbuster of the Marauders. Nightcrawler has also found something interesting. 2 dead purifiers, as well as the remains of the Marauder prism. A woman comes up with the burned corpse of her child, and Emma manages to calm her down and find out what happened. And we discover that the purifiers showed up, going after, trying to kill town's children. The Marauders also showed up around the same time. With Emma explaining that the purifiers were playing it safe, the children of the town were collateral damage to them. She then instructs Warren to find a hospital, and when they get there, they find out that the Marauders, either the Marauders or the purifiers, decimated the maternity ward, including killing the newborn children. Well, the purifiers did that. Wolverine's having trouble getting the scent because as there's too much else in the air. But Emma finds something hopeful, as there are only 2 newborns in there. One got away, as a 3rd child was born that night. As the X-Men leave, Wolverine compares what's happened to the Stanford Massacre that kicked off the superhero Civil War. And while Logan's afraid that the government's going to come down on them, Cyclops explains that it's been the first new mutant birth in years. Mutants so powerful blew out Cerebro just by being born, and it's likely in Sinister's hands. He kind of gets that the government is the least of the X-Men's worries. As they fly away, however, it appears there's another player on the board. Predator X, a creature created by the same facility that created X-23, designed to hunt and feed off of mutant DNA. Going on to Chapter 2, there are news reports about what's happened. What's remembered by most people is that a private army appeared and started killing people, started shooting up the town. Some remember there being another force fighting the army, and others claim a group of superheroes arrived in the aftermath to help get survivors to safety. Cyclops, Emma, and Xavier discuss what to do, though the Cyclops and Xavier portions are more arguing than discussion. And by and large, Scott just kind of tells him, asks Xavier to help him, help by, letting Cyclops do what Xavier trained him to do. Lead. In the remains of what was Mutant Town, Angel, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Colossus are tracking down some of the surviving acolytes to get a fix, hoping that maybe if they can get it fixed, maybe one of them knows where to find Exodus, as Exodus and some of the Acolytes are currently working with Sinister the Marauders. They, of course, encounter resistance. It's not, they are trying to explain, hey, really, we're just here to talk. We ain't the best of friends, so coming to see you guys ain't exactly something that we wanted to, that we figured you'd be open to. So yeah, at the back of the mansion, Emma has shown up with Madrox, Richter, and Layla Miller. Who, well, knows stuff. Turns out, Cyclops has a plan in mind. Has two plans in mind. One involving Madrox, one involving Richter. Richter's plan, the plan for Richter is for him, as he is currently depowered, to infiltrate the Purifiers. Maybe figure out, find out if they have the child or not. More than anything. Madrox, however, is being sent to see Forge. And Layla's going to go with him. Beast finds something oddly familiar about the weapon that they took from one of the dead Purifiers, and is actually surprised that it's not salvaged future tech from the Nimrod they had. Back with the Acolytes, they finally do manage to have a talk. Predator X is moving east through Canada at the same time. Moving on to Chapter 3, in the portion of New York known as Chelsea, a group of Purifiers are meeting in a church, arming up, explaining that Alaska was just the beginning. The X-Men now know, or doubtless trying to get their own search going, but yeah. And the group is attacked by Wolfsbane, who promptly escapes and is seemingly shot dead. Though it's not, she's not. And shot by Richter, shot dead by Richter, no less, who identifies himself to the Purifiers as Joaquin Murrieta, and his friends call him Jake. In Dallas, Madrox and Layla show up at Forge's Airy, Eagle Plaza, and turns out that he has a device that can, again, going back to a point brought up in Endangered Species and Decimation, Forge has a device which allows him to scan possible futures for mutant activity. They've all flatlined. And after M Day, they flatlined. However, two of them have come back. At a hospital in Santa Cruz, the patient is brought in after he walked right in front of an ambulance with a nurse by the name of Amelia being brought over to process him. Of course, the man in question is Wolverine, who realizes it's Amelia Vaught, or who was sent along with side Nightcrawler and Storm to find Amelia Vaught. She then uses her powers to escape, and Storm manages to disrupt them. And she explains that she wasn't trying to, run away to protect the Acolytes from the X-Men. She was trying to protect the X-Men from the Acolytes. And so she says, you know what, to hell with them. Because where they're at is basically hell, and it's frozen over. Turns out that, back in Dallas, turns out that the plan is for Madrox to send a couple of his dupes to the two, one dupe each to the two future timelines that have once again registered with mutant life signs. Both are more than happy. The two are, happy to do their duty. One of them gets sent off. The other one gets on the platform, and while it's activating, Layla runs up, grabs Jamie, and the two of them are sent forward to the future. With Ford explaining it's a one-way trip. And there was basically each dupe upon going through the time portal was like with a sonic message that once they've gathered intel about the resurgence of mutants in those two timelines, they should then commit suicide, and the knowledge they have will then be transferred directly to Jamie within seconds. Jamie's not very happy about this, but before he can truly protest, he goes into a coma. Back at the mansion, the new X-Men are not happy about being sidelined again in the search for this new mutant. And Cyclops basically tells them that he's trying to oversee a war being fought on half a dozen fronts, and while Surge volunteers her team to help, he informs her that they will, but it will be where he says and when he says. He also adds as he leaves that when the time comes for them to fight, they may well wish it hadn't. Back in Chelsea, Richter's being introduced to being checked over by the purifiers. They have a scanner to make sure whether or not he's a mutant, and he isn't, so he starts to get the grand tour, including the massive armory, and an explanation that the church in Chelsea is actually one of the smaller purifier bases. The base in Washington is huge. It'll blow him away. Moving on to Chapter 4. In the Canadian Rockies, Predator X kills and eats another mutant on his way east. At Xavier's school, Surge is pissed off and gets into an argument with Xavier. Cyclops gets a brief update on Madrox from Forge. The new X-Men have also, back at the mansion, the new X-Men have learned that the Purifiers are involved, and so that makes it personal to them. And so a group of them, so Surge opts to lead a team in. Volunteers only, though. Hellion, Mercury, Dust. Though Dust is only going to rescue the child if it's there. Rockslide. Enola is also in just for the kid. Pixie for transportation. And X-23. Things then shift to Antarctica, where the Marauders and Acolytes are holed up. In Washington, Richter's being basically brought in, getting basically pushed further into the Purifier fold. Including being introduced to seeing who just learning that the Purifiers are new allies, though that reveal, it surprises Richter, but that reveal will have to wait as we join Jamie and Layla in the future, 80 years from the present. Turns out they're in Brooklyn, New York. The Sheepshead Bay Mutant Relocation Camp, to be exact. Back in the present, the new X-Men are breaking into the church being used by the Purifiers in Washington. And Dust opted to stay behind with Prodigy and Elixir both kind of saying, hey, yeah, you did the right thing. Elixir opted not to go because he would have killed all the Purifiers. Which would have been bad. He probably would have ended up killing Richter as well on accident. In Antarctica, Sinister is rallying the Marauders and explaining that, Cyclops will be coming, and direct conflict with the X-Men on their terms is not something that will further their goals. So they want to confront the X-Men on Sinister's terms. However, the X-Men show up. Shit meets fan. Back in DC, the new X-Men are making their way through stealthily when Enola learns the Purifiers are the kid. However, he's discovered by Richter. Who tells Enola that there's a much bigger problem than the Purifiers. And that bigger problem is revealed to be Lady Deathstrike. And potentially, speaking, as well as presumably some some Reaver Tech enhanced Purifiers. Lady Deathstrike makes her presence known by sticking one of her hands through Hellion's chest. On to part 5. In the future, Madrox and Layla are trying to figure out how to get information on what's happened. Apparently everything that's from mutants has been erased. In the present, we get the fight between the X-Men and the Marauders, which starts off fairly well, but it does eventually take a turn. In Washington, the new X-Men fight the Lady Deathstrike and her squad of, as I said, presumably cybernetically enhanced Reavers, and, yeah. However, Pixie manages to get everyone out. Emma, who has basically been preventing Sinister from interrupting the X-Men's basically psychic links, is distracted by the sudden arrival of the new X-Men. And it was enough of a distraction that Emma can't stop the potential clouding of the X-Men's minds. The fight with the Marauders is not going well, as they're not as possible for the Reavers to mess with their heads. The team manages to get out, but only just. Back at the mansion, something goes wrong with the ONE Sentinel mechs, and they attack the mansion. And seem to be reverting to normal Sentinels. However, Part 5 ends with the revelation of just who it is that has the child. As it turns out, the Marauders don't have the baby either. And who has that child? Cable. Which brings us to Chapter 6. The X-Men, having kind of gotten their asses kicked a bit by the Marauders, are heading back, having learned that yes, that Cable has the baby. Courtesy of Gambit. At Xavier's, the X-Men are trying to fend off the Sentinels, the ONE Sentinels, who have seemingly all gone rogue. The ones at the mansion managed to band together and take the Sentinels down, along with some help from Hepzibah of the Starjammers. The Marauders opt to abandon their Antarctica base. Cable's making his way elsewhere with the baby. And the X-Men begin to learn that, thanks to Dust, the X-Men learn that something has gone very wrong inside the ONE Sentinels. The pilots are now Nano Sentinels, and, well, at least one of them manages to escape. Furthermore, the mansion has been practically destroyed. And Wolverine and his team return, with Wolverine having to give Cyclops the news that Cable's got the baby. Cyclops tells Wolverine it's time to up the stakes. And tells Wolverine his target is Cable, and to take Cable down and get the child back by any means necessary. And then tells him to assemble the X-Force. The team is shown to consist of Wolverine, Warpath, Wolfsbane, Caliban, X-23, and Hepzibah. All of whom are excellent trackers. Some of whom are also really, really good fighters. Moving on to Chapter 7, the X-Men debate what to do at the remains of the mansion. And Cable is being tracked by Lady Deathstrike and her squad of purifiers. Meanwhile, the mutant Peepers is calling X Factor for help when Predator X tracks him down. In the future, Jamie and Madrox and Layla get captured by the security guards at the relocation camp. In the present, X-Force is in Cooperstown doing some recon. And Warpath knocks out one of the cops and takes his walkie. Though Wolverine's not happy because, well, he didn't, basically, Wolverine's in charge, and, you know, knocking out a cop ain't exactly a way to be a stealth team. However, Warpath said that, yeah, that's true. However, having a walkie-talkie so they can listen in on the cops and track their movements lessens the chances of them having to fight their way out. But, and Wolverine explains that there was so much crap in there he couldn't get a clean scent on Cable. Wanting to get some specific idea. It turns out that Wolfsbane has been given a secondary mission. Keep an eye on Warpath. Because there may come a point when the X-Force squad has to, well, kill Cable. And Wolverine would prefer that Warpath not hesitate. But there's a chance he's going to. Wolverine needs to know it. Warpath already figured out that he was being partnered up with Wolfsman for that reason. They talk about it, and Warpath's like, don't worry, I'm on. You know, hey, the mission comes first. While X-Force is investigating, Cable's getting smacked around by Deathstrike and her Reavers, and in the future, Madrox and Layla get some information about what happened. A mutant was the cause of the camps, basically. Siren discovers Peeper's remains, while Predator X goes on his way. But Caliban and Hepzibah accidentally alerted the guards to the team's presence. And so, which brings us to part 8. Cable's not been doing well against the Marauders. But not the Marauders, but the Reavers. The Purifier Reavers. Whatever. Deathstrike and her Purifiers. However, something that Deathstrike didn't anticipate was backup for Cable in the form of X-Force. In the future, Jamie go further into the camp. Back with X-Force, they take on the Reavers with X-23 getting to get her licks in against Lady Deathstrike. As at this point in time, she did have a thing for Hellion. Back at the Xavier Institute, Beast and Prodigy are exhausted from doing what they can to stabilize all the injured mutants. Surge blames herself for everything going wrong, and especially for her team being laid up, because, as she puts it, they weren't ready and they almost died because of that. So Emma tells her that, if you had been here, if you hadn't gone to Washington, maybe you would all ended up being killed by the Sentinels. And Emma explains that she made Surge the team leader because she knew that Surge would protect the team, even from Emma herself. And X-Factor has shown up to also lend assistance. And the fight between X-23 and Deathstrike is not going in X-23's favor. Until she surprises Deathstrike by cutting the cybernetics in one of Deathstrike's arms and then getting to let loose. And then we get a crucial... then Wolfsbane, while fighting the Purifiers, is given a rather interesting bit of information. Apparently, Reverend Craig, the priest who raised her, and basically told her that she was, a hell spawn, spawn of the devil, so on and so forth. He's in contact with the Purifiers. While X-Force is dealing with the Purifiers, Cable tries to make good his escape, and then Caliban and Warpath go after him. And one of the Purifiers, who's still standing, brings his gun to bear on Warpath and fires. However, Caliban gets in the way and takes what looks to be 3 or 4 rounds center mass. And dies. X-23 further messes up Deathstrike and leaves her bleeding out in the snow. Wolverine goes after Cable, and, well, yeah. Turns out that Cable opted to steal the Blackbird that X-Force came in. Moving on to Chapter 9, we start off in the future. Jamie and Layla get tattooed. The tattoo in this case being an M over their right eye. The other Blackbirds headed to X-Force's coordinates, and they've learned the truth about Caliban, and explained that he will get a proper burial. And just not yet. They kind of go to what happened. Prodigy, with the help of the Cuckoos, is able to fix Cerebro. In Texas, Cable steals an 18-wheeler and continues on his journey. Cyclops, thinking about the fact that, well, Cable's out there, is remembering when he sent Cable to the future in the first place, when Cable was a baby. Prodigy and Surge are able to get Cerebro back online, and the Cuckoos use it to try and figure out what's going on, and they realize exactly where Cable is. He's headed to Dallas. Which makes sense. There aren't too many places one can find a time machine, especially mutant-friendly places. Forge's area is one of those places. Cable shows up, finds Forge injured, and someone shoots Cable. That someone is revealed to be Bishop, who is now training his gun on the newborn mutant. Which brings us to chapter 10. Bishop's trying to bring himself to kill the baby when the Marauders show up and save the baby from Bishop. Also, Gambit takes a little bit of pleasure in having to, getting to fight Bishop, as when Bishop first joined the X-Men, he was extremely untrustworthy of Gambit and accused Gambit of being the traitor to the X-Men that sold them out to the Sentinels, or whoever. And after they're done, they do kind of wonder. Gambit is kind of curious why Bishop was trying to kill the baby. Well, it turns out that Jamie and Layla in the future are in the same camp that Bishop grew up in. The X-Men arrive shortly after the Marauders leave, and Bishop lies through his teeth to them, and explains that Cable and the Marauders, he showed up to find Cable fighting the Marauders, and then the Marauders incapacitated Cable, and he tried to stop them from getting the baby, but it was too late. Warpath plays overprotective boyfriend to Hepzibah. Bishop gets the news that Caliban's dead. The X-Men are working on a plan. Cable returns to the Blackbird he stole, takes it, and gets in touch with Xavier. explaining that Xavier might be the only person who can help him save the future. Which brings us to Chapter 11. Layla and Jamie trying to learn more about what's happened and get to know the young Bishop. He explains that about the Destiny freaks. They were a group of mutants who thought the mutant race was special. The mutants would lead humans to this great destiny. We'd all live together as one. Humans want to be led anywhere? Well, yeah, no. Then, about 80 years previously, almost all the Destiny freaks vanished. The Great Darkness, some called it. And everything would have been great if it stayed that way. But nope. The Destiny freaks kept pushing, and another mutant came along. Mutant Messiah. Things seemed just great for mutants then. But the mutant... Basically, the Mutant Messiah killed a very large group of humans, and Layla sticks a grenade on Jamie's waistband and pulls the pin, causing him to blow up. In the present, Cyclops is certain that there's something that they're missing. And Madrox wakes up, and the M that his dupe got in the future forms over his right eye. He immediately asks where Bishop is. Xavier helps to repair all the various bits of damage, both to Cable, both to his cybernetics and to his body, while the two discuss what's been going on. Madrox then explains to the X-Men that Bishop is not on their side. Or at least possibly not on their side. Also, Jamie wants to go back to the future and rescue Layla, but is basically told, when all this is over, we'll try. And then Cable tells Charles that it was Bishop who turned the Sentinels on the X-Men. Back on Muir Island, the Marauders arrive, with Gambit bringing Sinister, the Messiah. As the rest of the Marauders leave, however, it's revealed that Sinister is not Sinister, but rather Mystique, and Mystique has killed Sinister. At the X-Mansion, the New X-Men are hanging around when Predator X shows up. X-Force, with the addition of Bishop, have arrived on Muir Island, and when the Marauders show up. Brings us to Chapter 12. First off, we find out what happened with Sinister. The Marauders also have Rogue, after blinded by the light. And Sinister basically says, yeah, your daughter is basically dead, so by all means, take some time to mourn. However, Mystique has other plans, and forces Sinister to touch Rogue, make skin contact with Rogue, thus passing on the virus that was in her onto him, killing him almost instantly. So we get the X-Force, X-Force versus the Marauders, and it goes a bit better than the X-Men versus the Marauders. Especially when the X-Men show up. And the X-Force finds out that, yeah, Bishop is the bad guy they're after. At the mansion, the new X-Men are fighting, doing the best they can against Predator X. Meanwhile, back at Muir Island, Rogue has forced skin-to-skin contact between the baby, or Mystique has forced skin-to-skin contact between the baby and Rogue in the efforts of healing what's happened to Rogue, which Gambit is thoroughly pissed. Like, you kill a baby, Rogue would never have that. But the baby's fine. However, Rogue has not woken up yet, so Mystique realizes that it was all for naught. The combined forces of X-Force, X-Factor, and the X-Men are taking on the combined forces of the Marauders and the Acolytes. Bishop, of course, is trying to make his way to the baby. The fight with Predator X is not going well, and then Pixie teleports the new X-Men and Predator X, as well as Beast and some of the others, to Muir Island. And Predator X kind of just begins on having a feast on Marauders. Xavier gives Cable a child, says, escaping the future, But then Bishop shows up, as does Predator X, which brings us to the finale. Another fight between Cable and Bishop, though Predator X is also there, so yeah. And bites off one of Bishop's arms. The fight between the X-Men, the X-Teams, and the combined Marauders and Acolytes is actually going much better for the X-Men than previous fights did. And Warpath seems to... Well, Warpath tries to do some damage to Predator X. Rogue wakes up. Mystique kind of says, "Oh, good, you're awake." And he's like, "Well, okay, yeah." And Rogue touches Mystique, knocking her out. Fight seems to go fairly well. With Wolverine killing Predator X by being swallowed by Predator X and cutting his way out. Cable's given the baby to Cyclops, and Cyclops remembers sending baby Nathan to the future. Jean dying in his arms at the end of the Morrison run, as well as his honeymoon with Jean in the future, where they raised, basically raised Cable. And so Scott makes yet another hard decision and tells Cable to take the baby, get her out of it, let her be herself, choose for herself. Adding, give her the freedom I was never able to give you. Both Beast and Wolverine object, but Cyclops says, hey, no, this is over. We made the decision. As Cable leaves, Bishop gets up and fires a few shots at Bishop, or at Cable, missing because, well, Cable's no longer in this time period. And those shots hit Xavier. One of which was a headshot. Bishop, however, escapes. And standing over the body, Cyclops simply says, "There are no X-Men." And that is where Messiah Complex ends. The mansion is destroyed. A new mutant has been born, but is being raised in the future. Allies have turned into enemies. Enemies have remained enemies. Enemies have joined forces with each other. Things look pretty grim for the X-Men. Which is why next week we'll be diving into Messiah War, which was a crossover between X-Force and Cable. Anyway, that's it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. A special shout out to my patron, Brittany. Thank you for pledging money to the Patreon. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long, rock hard, and stay safe, everyone.